So, um, why can't technological progress just save the poorest people? I mean, it is a massive, uncomfortable question
Right, it really is.
because we constantly assume that if we just invent better tools or, if we
Yeah.
pour enough billions into developing economies, poverty will naturally just start to vanish.
Yeah, that's the default assumption for basically everyone.
But the data tells a completely different, almost maddening story.
Right.
I want you to consider a real mystery today. Like, why do good, high-quality businesses sometimes face bizarre, agonizing bankruptcies,
Right.
while terrible, low-efficiency businesses survive for decades?
It is a profound paradox. You look at these markets and it physically feels like the laws of economic gravity have just been suspended.
Yeah.
Nothing works the way it should.
Exactly.
Oh.
And that is what we are unpacking today. This deep dive is going to completely rewire how you think about global poverty, about business competition, and honestly, about the hidden forces controlling your own daily life.
Oh, absolutely.
We are looking at an incredibly detailed 6-year natural experiment. It was conducted by scholars Robert Jensen and Nolan Miller. And our mission today is very clear. We are going to prove to you that the real enemy of economic growth isn't a lack of money.
No, it's not.
It is an invisible, suffocating barrier of information. We are going to take you on a journey that starts with wooden boats on the coast of India and ends with a complete rewriting of how we understand the survival of the fittest.
Oh, what's truly fascinating here is the absolute scale, the illusion we are dealing with. I mean, the global community has spent decades and countless billions of dollars aggressively treating the symptoms of poverty.
Right.
But this research forces us to look at the actual disease. It forces us to look at the invisible architecture of information. When you, the buyer, cannot see the truth of a market, the market cannot function. The gears strip.
Yeah.
The engine dies. It is that simple and that devastating.
Let's start with a reality check that honestly feels like a slap in the face. I want you to think about a manufacturing company in India that has been in business for 40 years.
Right.
4 decades of surviving, paying bills, making products. You would naturally assume they have massive factories, hundreds of employees, a sprawling, highly tuned operation.
You'd think so, sure.
But they don't. A 40-year-old manufacturing company in India is, on average, only 40% bigger than a 5-year-old startup. Why do they refuse to grow up?
Well, it is a systemic tragedy. We can call it the Peter Pan curse of microfirms.
The Peter Pan curse.
Right. They never grow up. To understand the brutality of this, you have to look at the comparative data. Let's look at the United States first. In the U.S., the average manufacturing firm has about 42 employees.
Okay, 42.
That is a solid, functional team. It allows for specialization, for day and night shifts, for real, scalable production capacity. Now look at India. The average manufacturing firm in India has just 2.6 employees.
Wait, hold on. Let me make sure I heard that right. Not 26, 2.6.
2.6.
How do you even have 0.6 of an employee?
Right, I know it sounds weird. It usually means a family member who helps out part-time,
Mm-hmm.
2 full-time guys, and a cousin who sweeps up on weekends. That is the entire company.
Wow.
Almost 100% of manufacturing firms in India have fewer than 10 employees. And it is a remarkably similar story in places like Indonesia and Mexico. These businesses are born small and they die small.
That is just...
They never, ever experience that natural, healthy life cycle of a successful enterprise. They are trapped in amber.
But logically, if a business is 40 years old, shouldn't it have naturally expanded just by the sheer fact of surviving?
You would think.
I mean, if you are making something people want and you don't go bankrupt for 4 decades, you should be a giant. It feels like looking at a bonsai tree. It is
Yeah.
perfectly formed, it is ancient, but it has been kept artificially tiny because its environment, its pot, is aggressively restricting its roots.
Yeah, that bonsai tree is the perfect analogy. The pot in this scenario is their strictly local market. If you can only sell to the handful of people standing immediately in front of you, your roots can never spread. You hit a ceiling instantly. But the real tragedy isn't just that they are small.
What is it?
The tragedy is the extreme, mind-boggling inefficiency this creates across the entire economy.
Which brings us to a massive contradiction. In a normal free market, bad businesses die. That is the ruthless Darwinian promise of capitalism.
Exactly.
If your product is terrible and your prices are high, you go out of business. So since low-efficiency companies have incredibly high production costs, why haven't they been crushed by their high-efficiency competitors?
Because the natural weeding out mechanism is broken, completely fundamentally broken. If we
Yeah.
connect this to the bigger picture, you have to look at something economists call productivity dispersion.
Okay, let's translate that. Productivity dispersion. That basically means the gap between the absolute best producers and the absolute worst producers in an industry, right?
Exactly. How wide is the gap between excellence and incompetence? In the United States, the gap between the top 25% of manufacturing firms and the bottom 25% is about a 3.2 times difference.
Okay, so the best guys in America are about 3 times more efficient than the worst guys. That makes intuitive sense.
Right. But in India, that efficiency gap is a massive 5 times difference.
5 times.
Yes, the top firms are producing 5 times more efficiently than the bottom firms.
But wait, how is that physically possible? In a functioning system, a 5 times disadvantage is an instant death sentence.
It should be.
If my competitor can make a chair 5 times faster and cheaper than I can, he should lower his prices, steal every single one of my customers, and run me out of town in a matter of months.
That is exactly what should happen. But they don't. The terrible firms just keep chugging along decade after decade, doing a terrible job wasting materials and charging a premium.
Unbelievable.
The natural weeding out process just isn't happening.
It is like having a vacuum cleaner that is completely clogged. Motor is running, it sounds loud, the power is on, but you run it over the carpet and nothing is being picked up.
That's a great way to picture it.
The dirt just stays there. The bad businesses are entirely shielded from the consequences of their own incompetence.
That is the core mystery. Why is the vacuum clogged? To figure out why this is happening, Jensen and Miller didn't look at massive multinational corporations. They looked at boats.
Boats.
Specifically, they found the perfect micro-industry sandbox.
I want you to picture this scene. You are in the coastal districts of Kannur and Kasaragod in Kerala, India.
Okay.
The air smells like salt and sawdust, the Arabian Sea is crashing against the shore, and you have generations of fishermen relying on traditional, artisanal wooden fishing boats.
It is the ultimate pristine testing ground. We call it a sandbox because it is a completely closed loop. There is zero outside technology coming in.
Not at all.
No fiberglass boats from China, no massive corporate shipyards from Mumbai. It is just local artisans building wooden boats with hand tools exactly as they have done for hundreds of years.
Let's set the baseline for you. Across these 2 coastal districts, the researchers tracked 143 individual boat-building workshops.
Right.
Remember that tiny firm size we talked about? The bonsai tree? It is in full effect right here. The average workshop has exactly 2.1 workers.
There's that fractional worker again.
Yeah. It is almost always a father and a son. The absolute largest workshop in the entire region, the titan of the industry, has only 4 people.
And here is where we find the invisible wall. Because these boats are entirely handmade with no standardized parts, the quality depends entirely on the skill, the patience, and the integrity of the specific artisan building it.
Yeah.
And the difference in quality between these tiny shops is staggering.
It is a literal life expectancy abyss. The researchers didn't just take their word for it. They had independent expert auditors look at the boats being produced.
Which is crucial.
The best artisan in the region makes a boat that will last, on average, 7.6 years of brutal daily ocean fishing.
Okay, nearly 8 years.
The worst artisan makes a boat that rots, splinters, and fails in just 3.3 years.
Less than half the lifespan. You are buying a completely inferior product.
But here is the absolute face slapper. The prices for the 7-year boat and the 3-year boat are virtually identical.
Identical.
The good boats offer literally double the value of the bad boats for the exact same amount of money. So you have to ask, why are 97% of these fishermen voluntarily acting like suckers?
Well, let's challenge that assumption. Are they actually acting like suckers, or are they blindfolded?
I mean, I am sitting here thinking, if I can buy a car that lasts 8 years or a car that lasts 3 years and the sticker price on the windshield is exactly the same,
Right.
the 3-year car company goes bankrupt tomorrow morning. Nobody on earth buys it.
But that entirely assumes you, the buyer, actually know the difference. It assumes you have access to the truth. In Kerala, at this time, that truth was trapped inside a black box.
And that takes us to what we can only describe as the village prison. Just a few miles apart, these coastal villages operate as completely isolated parallel universes. Why?
The numbers on this are wild.
Because the data shows that 97% of fishermen only buy boats from the single workshop located in their own village.
Yeah.
97%.
Think about the physical and psychological reality of this transaction. The wooden boat is what economists call an experience good.
An experience good.
Right, meaning you cannot tell a good boat from a bad boat just by looking at it sitting on the dry sand.
Right, because they use the exact same type of wood. They use the same paint. The joints might look perfectly tight on day one.
Exactly. You only find out it is a terrible boat 3 years later when you are 10 miles out at sea, a storm kicks up, and the hull starts splintering and taking on water.
Oh.
By then, it is too late.
And there is zero safety net. None. There are no warranties you can cash in. There are no small claims courts you can drag the builder into to get your money back. And there certainly isn't a Yelp page where you can leave a 1-star review warning everyone else, like, do not buy from this guy, my boat fell apart.
This raises an incredibly important question about human risk. Buying a boat from the next village over isn't just a slight inconvenience. It is a terrifying gamble.
You're risking everything.
You are betting your entire livelihood, your physical safety, and your ability to feed your children on a total stranger. In the absence of a modern credit system or an institutional trust system like a legal contract, you are forced to rely on pure local proximity.
You buy from the guy in your village because you know where he sleeps, you know his cousins.
Yeah.
If he builds you a boat that sinks in 2 weeks, you can go knock on his door.
Yes.
There is a social contract, a web of village accountability, even if his boats are mediocre.
Precisely. The fear of being scammed by a stranger in the next town is vastly more powerful than the desire for a potentially better boat. So, by default, you are handing your local builder an absolute, unbreakable monopoly.
It doesn't matter how bad he is at his job. He's the only game in town because everyone is too terrified of the unknown to venture past the village borders.
Right.
The invisible wall keeping this economy trapped isn't made of bricks or taxes. It's made of fear and missing information.
And look at it from the bad builder's perspective. He doesn't need to improve. He doesn't need to innovate. He doesn't need to lower his prices.
Why would he?
Exactly. He has a captive audience that cannot escape him. This is exactly why the bad firms survive. The broader market is fragmented into dozens of tiny, isolated dictatorships of mediocrity.
Okay, so the system is utterly deadlocked. The fishermen are getting ripped off. The genuinely talented builders can't get any new customers, and the terrible builders are fat and comfortable.
A perfect stalemate.
How do you break a deadlock that has lasted for literally generations? Do you bring in a massive government intervention? Do you secure a $100 million World Bank infrastructure loan?
You'd think that's what it takes.
No. You introduce a basic, clunky, early 2000s 2G cell phone.
The 2G shock. This is one of the most elegant, perfectly timed natural experiments in modern economic history.
So cool.
Between 1998 and 2000, cell phone towers were slowly, geographically built along the coast of Kerala. They hit Region 3rd in 1998. They hit Region 5 in 2000.
Okay.
And a third, inland region, never got them at all due to the mountainous geography blocking the signals.
But we need to be incredibly clear about something, because
Okay.
this is where the story gets wild. The phones were not given to the boat builders.
Right. Yeah.
Nobody was calling up a shipyard to place an order. The phones were used exclusively by the fishermen. And they weren't talking about boats at all.
Not even a little bit.
They were using these clunky brick-like phones while out on the water to call the different fish markets on the shore and ask, hey, what are you paying for sardines today?
It was pure price arbitrage for fish.
Pure arbitrage.
Before the phones, a fisherman would catch his fish, sail back to his home village, and sell them to the local buyer. He had absolutely no idea if the buyer 2 villages down the coast was offering a higher price that morning.
And he couldn't risk sailing all the way down there just to check, because if he gets there and the price is actually lower, his fish are now a day older. They are rotting in the sun. He loses everything.
Exactly. The information friction forced them to stay local. But with the phone, the risk vanishes instantly.
Because he just calls ahead.
Right. He makes a 30-second call, finds out the market 10 miles south is paying a premium for sardines, and he sails directly there. The behavioral shift in the fleet is instantaneous and violent.
I love the data on this. Before the phones, 95% of fishermen sold their fish in their own village.
95%.
After the phones, that number plummeted to 60%. Suddenly, you have a massive daily migration of fishermen bouncing between different towns, chasing the best prices.
But wait, let's pause here. Think critically about this.
Yeah, I'm already pushing back in my head. The phones had absolutely nothing to do with boat building. It's like inventing the microwave and accidentally destroying the shoe industry. How does a fisherman selling his sardines in the next town over suddenly ruin a local boatyard.
Through the butterfly effect of human interaction, this is the cognitive rebuilding phase of an economy.
Cognitive rebuilding.
Think about the physical reality of what happens when a fisherman sails to a new town to sell his fish. He unloads his catch, he weighs it, and then he has to wait.
Right.
He's sitting on the wooden docks, maybe drinking tea, waiting to get paid by the market boss. And who is he sitting next to on those docks?
Other fishermen. He is sitting next to fishermen from that specific village, and probably fishermen from 3 other villages who also chase the high price that day.
Precisely. And what do professionals in an incredibly dangerous physical trade talk about when they're killing time? They talk about their gear.
They gossip?
They gossip relentlessly. They complain. They brag. The fisherman from Village A looks at the hull of the boat owned by the fisherman from Village B and asks, "How long have you had that thing?"
And the guy says, 5 years, and I haven't had to patch a single leak. My builder back home is incredible.
Exactly. And the fisherman from Village A suddenly looks down and realizes his own 3-year-old boat is already rotting, pulling apart at the seams, and he paid the exact same price.
The black box is open, and the data on this awakening is absolutely staggering. The researchers actually tested the fisherman's knowledge.
They did.
Before the phones arrived, if you asked a fisherman to guess the lifespan of a boat made in a different village, his guess was wildly, comically wrong. The error margin was 1.5 to 2 years off the reality. They literally had no clue who was good and who was bad.
It was a state of pure enforced ignorance. But after the phones arrive and after they start traveling and talking on the docks, that estimation error drops to almost zero.
Zero.
The fishermen rapidly developed perfectly accurate knowledge of the quality of every single builder up and down the entire coast.
It became a human Yelp network. Suddenly, the guy who builds the 7.6-year boat isn't a village secret anymore. Everyone within 50 miles knows he's a master craftsman. And the guy who builds the 3.3-year boat, everyone knows he's a total hack. The invisible information wall has just shattered into a million pieces.
And when buyers finally see the truth, an industry bloodbath begins.
When I read the numbers on the aftermath, my jaw physically dropped. This wasn't a slow generational transition. It was a swift execution.
It was brutal.
In Region 1, the number of boat building workshops drops from 59 to 23. In Region 2, it drops from 48 to 19. And in Region 3, the inland place with no cell towers.
Nothing.
Zero change. Nothing happens at all.
A massive 60% of the workshops in the connected regions are completely wiped out of existence.
60%. That is a Great Depression-level collapse of an industry. But, and here's a crucial, fascinating distinction, it was not random. It wasn't just bad luck or a generalized recession.
Not at all.
The blade of competition was swinging with surgical precision.
It was targeted elimination. The researchers tracked exactly which firms died. Almost every single workshop that went bankrupt had a baseline boat lifespan below the regional median. The market was finally performing its natural function. It was weeding out the weak.
There is a profound justice in this, isn't there?
Yeah.
The guys who were making a safe, comfortable living off the geographic isolation of their village. The guys who were quietly cutting corners, using unseasoned wood, doing sloppy joint work. They couldn't survive a single year in the blinding light of transparent information.
Yay. As soon as their captive audience found out there was a better option, they abandoned them entirely.
It really forces us to redefine what a business failure actually means in economics.
It does. Was this sudden wave of bankruptcies a tragic loss of traditional village crafts? Or was it the painful, absolutely necessary birth of a real, functional industry?
Exactly.
For the terrible boat builders, yes, it was a personal tragedy. But for the fishermen who are no longer being quietly robbed of their hard-earned money every 3 years, it was pure liberation.
Okay, so the bad guys are dead. The clogged vacuum has been cleared. But what happens to the good guys? The survivors.
That's the best part.
This is where the story pivots from destruction to a literal economic miracle. I want to talk about how these businesses actually grew because it shatters everything I thought I knew about developing economies.
Let's look at the master artisans, the guys who were building the 7.6-year boats. Before the phones, they were just as trapped as everyone else.
Right.
They had a tiny local market of maybe a few dozen fishermen, and they couldn't grow. But suddenly, fishermen from 10 villages away are showing up on their doorstep with fistfuls of cash demanding their
The
boats.
demand completely explodes. The surviving, high-quality artisans saw their average production jump from 14.1 boats a year to 34 boats a year.
Mhm.
They more than doubled their size almost overnight.
Yes.
But here's the multi-billion-dollar question. How did they afford to do it?
This is where we have to challenge a very deeply held, almost sacred belief in development economics.
Okay, lay it on us.
For decades, the dominant theory has been the credit constraint myth. The basic assumption is that poor businesses in developing nations don't grow because they cannot get loans. They don't have access to capital, they don't have collateral, so they are stuck. This entire belief system birthed the modern microfinance industry.
We have all heard the pitch. It is incredibly compelling. Give a poor entrepreneur a $500 loan, and they will build an empire. They just need the seed money.
It sounds perfect, but Jensen and Miller looked at the financial books of these exploding, highly successful boat businesses in Kerala. Do you know how many of them used external bank loans or even loans from their extended family to fund this massive expansion?
The number is stunning.
It is.
3 out of the entire industry of surviving businesses, only 3 used any kind of loan.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is earth-shattering. How did they triple their output without borrowing money? They funded their massive growth entirely on retained earnings.
Okay, walk me through the actual mechanism of that, because if I suddenly have 20 new orders, I need to buy a lot of wood right now.
It is a step-by-step bootstrapping process. They didn't build 20 boats at once. A fisherman places an order and pays a deposit. The builder uses that deposit, plus the profit from the last boat he sold, to buy enough wood for the next 2 boats. He builds them, sells them, and takes that larger profit pool to buy wood for 4 boats and maybe hire 1 assistant.
That makes so much sense.
He repeats the cycle. The capital wasn't missing from the economy. The demand was missing. Once the demand arrived, the capital naturally generated itself.
That is a complete misdiagnosis of the patient. Economists have been staring at these tiny firms thinking they were starved of cash. But they weren't starved of cash, they were starved of customers.
Precisely.
If the lack of funding isn't the real bottleneck, then we have to face a really uncomfortable reality. Have we been dumping billions of dollars in global poverty loans into the wrong bucket?
It raises a critical systemic question. Think about the implications. If an NGO gives a microloan to a bad boat builder who is currently protected by an information wall, you aren't helping the economy grow.
No.
You are just subsidizing his inefficiency. You are artificially keeping a bad business alive. You are treating a symptom. The actual disease is the lack of market access.
Right.
It is the lack of transparent information connecting the good producer to the willing buyer. Fix the information, shatter the wall, and the good businesses will fund themselves.
That is mind-bending. Okay, so these good businesses are getting huge. They're building 34 boats instead of 14. But here is the next impossible fact, and I'm going to need you to explain the math on this because it doesn't make any sense.
I'll try.
Without buying a single piece of modern machinery,
Yeah.
no power saws, no hydraulic lifts, no electricity at all, the cost to build each boat actually dropped by 1/3.
Yes, a massive reduction.
How is that physically possible? If I have to hire 3 extra guys to help me build more boats, my payroll goes up. My costs should increase.
Welcome to the spontaneous emergence of economies of scale. What we are witnessing here is a mechanical efficiency that has nothing to do with electricity. First, let's talk about idle capital.
Idle capital.
When you only build 14 boats a year, your capital, your expensive handsaws, your hammers, your covered workspace, is sitting completely idle most of the time. You are paying for tools that aren't working. But when you scale up to 34 boats, your capital usage drops by 37% per boat.
Because the tools are always moving. The saw is never resting.
Exactly. But it isn't just the tools. The real magic happens with the human beings holding the tools. This is Adam Smith's 1776 pin factory theory playing out in real time on a sandy beach in India. It is the raw power of labor division.
Let me paint this picture for you because this is where the genius of human organization kicks in. Before the cell phone boom, when a workshop only had 2 guys, the average worker had to do absolutely everything.
Everything.
He was the ultimate jack of all trades. The researchers found he did an average of 7.3 different tasks. He negotiated with the buyer. He walked to the forest to select the wood. He carried it back. He cut the wood. He sanded it. He drilled the holes. He painted it.
He was constantly dropping one tool to pick up another.
Yep.
And in manufacturing, context switching is the absolute enemy of efficiency. Every time you switch tasks, you lose momentum. But after the boom, the successful workshops hired a few more guys, and suddenly they reorganized. The average worker is only doing 2.7 tasks.
So having a guy just drill holes all day instead of building a whole boat from scratch actually makes the boat last longer and cost less. It is the literal birth of the assembly line.
What's fascinating here is that the workers rapidly become hyper-specialized experts. Think about the guy cutting the wood. If that is all he does, he learns exactly how the grain flows in that specific type of timber.
Right. He doesn't mess up.
He makes fewer mistakes. He wastes less material. The guy driving the fasteners learns the exact tension required so the wood doesn't split 3 years later under the stress of the waves. Quality goes up, waste goes down, and the speed of production skyrockets.
Incredible.
They didn't need microchips or robotics. They just needed the sheer volume of orders required to justify dividing the labor.
It is incredibly elegant. It is just humans optimizing themselves once the artificial barriers are removed. But of course, we are talking about economics, which means we have to ruin the mood.
We always do.
Because in economics, nothing is ever perfectly free. Actual boat lifespans doubled, and the annual costs dropped.
But is this really a free lunch with no losers?
No. In economics, there is rarely a perfectly victimless fairy tale.
Yeah.
Market integration always creates a wealth redistribution. Someone wins and someone loses. Let's look at the math for the average buyer first.
Okay, for the average fisherman who used to be trapped with a terrible builder, it is a massive life-altering win. The nominal price, the actual cash handed over for a new boat, went up slightly, about 4%.
Right.
Why? Because the good builders were suddenly in high demand, so they could charge a tiny bit more, but the lifespan of that boat went up by 32%.
Which means when you amortize the cost over the life of the asset, the actual annual cost of owning a boat plummeted by 20%.
Wow. That is 20% of a fisherman's largest business expense dropping straight into his family's pocket as pure profit every single year.
It is life-changing money. It pays for school, it pays for medicine. But who is paying the price for this? Who is the loser in this equation?
The dark side of market integration falls on a very specific, unlucky group, the fishermen who originally lived in the good villages.
Oh, wow. Let me get this straight. Before the cell phones, if you were lucky enough to be born in a village that just happened to have a master boat builder, you were getting a 7.6-year boat for incredibly cheap because nobody else knew about him.
Exactly.
He was your village's fiercely guarded secret weapon.
Precisely. You had exclusive VIP access to artificially cheap excellence, purely courtesy of the information wall keeping everyone else out. But once the wall shattered and fishermen from 20 miles away flooded into your village demanding boats from your builder, his waiting list exploded.
And so, being a rational businessman, he raised his prices.
He raised his prices. The fishermen in the originally good villages ended up paying 3% more for the exact same boat they used to get for less.
That's riff for them.
The premium they paid directly subsidized the massive gains experienced by everyone else who abandoned the terrible builders.
It is a direct wealth transfer. The universe balanced the scales. The guys who had it great lost a little bit of their advantage so that the guys who were getting scammed could survive. That is incredible.
Which leads us to the ultimate academic synthesis of this entire story. Did a handful of clunky 2G phones achieve exactly what Nobel Prize-winning international trade deals dream of doing?
You are talking about the Militz model, right?
Yeah.
We promised no jargon today, so we are going to translate this into plain English.
Please do.
Imagine two massive countries negotiating a historic free trade agreement. They are trying to drop tariffs, which are basically taxes on imports, so that good products can cross borders cheaply.
Mark Militz won immense acclaim in economics for mathematically modeling exactly what happens when countries open up to trade. His model predicts that when physical barriers fall, the most productive firms will naturally expand into the new export markets.
Because they can finally reach them.
Right. And the least productive firms, suddenly facing terrifying foreign competition, will collapse and die. And the middle-tier firms will survive but shrink. The end result is that the entire industry's average efficiency skyrockets simply because the dead weight was cut loose.
But Militz was talking about sovereign nations. He was talking about massive border patrols, shipping containers, and multinational treaties. Jensen and Miller proved that the exact same Militz model works on a sandy beach in Kerala without a single physical tariff being involved.
That is the profound revelation here. The barrier keeping these villages apart wasn't a tax. The barrier was ignorance.
Ignorance.
Eliminating the information barrier in Kerala had the exact same mathematically identical economic effect as eliminating a massive invisible trade tariff between countries.
Let's pull this all together. Because this story is not about wooden boats. It is not about sardine prices. And it certainly isn't about 2G cell phones.
No, it's really not.
It is about how hidden information keeps the world's poorest people locked in unbreakable cycles of inefficiency. The Peter Pan firms that refuse to grow, the terrible businesses that just won't die, the agonizing lack of growth. It is all a symptom of a localized information vacuum.
Exactly.
If you want to fix an economy, you don't necessarily need to blindly hand people money. You need to give them a window to see the truth of the market.
And that realization that transparent information is the ultimate foundational infrastructure of a society is what we must take with us into the present day.
Which brings us to our final lingering thought for you to mull over. I want to zoom out from that beach in India in the early 2000s and look at today. Today is June 18th, 2026.
Look around you.
Look at your phone right now. Think about the digital platforms, the algorithmic feeds, the delivery apps we rely on for absolutely everything we consume.
25 years ago, a simple 2G phone broke down information walls. It gave the buyer perfect transparency, and it liberated the bottom tier of an economy by letting them organically choose the best provider. It shattered the local monopolies.
But think about how you buy things today. Think about Amazon. Think about food delivery apps or gig economy platforms. Are these modern, highly integrated platform economies providing that same transparent liberation?
Or are they doing the exact opposite? When you search for a product today, you aren't seeing a transparent, objective list of the best producers. You are seeing what a hidden proprietary algorithm wants you to see. You are seeing the businesses that paid the highest advertising fee to the platform.
Are these tech giants using invisible algorithms to construct a new, inescapable digital cage? They control the search results. They control which reviews you see. They control the visibility of every merchant. Have they simply replaced the geographic isolation of a rural Indian village with an algorithmic isolation?
It is a terrifying parallel. In Kerala, the local builder had a monopoly because the fisherman couldn't physically see past his own village. Today, a platform has a monopoly because you cannot virtually see past the first page of their manipulated search results.
Are we right back to being the isolated fisherman buying the rotting boat, completely unaware that a better world exists just outside our view?
The tools have evolved, but the invisible walls are being built higher than ever.
Think about that the next time you tap Buy Now. Keep questioning what you see. We will leave you with that.